This is a never told before story of a small space startup that I worked for around 9 years ago. Frankly, it's a story that I've resisted telling because it's embarrassing. If you've never heard the story of Swiss Space Systems S3, buckle in because you're in for a wild ride. I was newly married. I had just gone off to my honeymoon in St. Croix, and I got an email from my new boss. This was 3 months into working for S3 USA, the US subsidiary of Swiss Space Systems. And my boss, he was based in Washington, D.C. I was based down in Florida. And my role was to manage all of Florida operations. My role was to really start the S3 office down in Florida. Then I get an email from my boss that payroll was going to be late. And little did I know that payroll would actually never occur again. Oh my gosh, I had just spent all this money, all of our savings on a wedding, on a vacation to St. Croix. The parent company in Switzerland was still paying our health insurance, and we still had a local grant funded in Florida that would pay out every quarter. Now, I do want to pause here and say that my boss in Washington, D.C. was phenomenal. I do not blame him whatsoever. He was in the same boat that I was in. Fast forward 2 months, there's an all-hands meeting, a virtual call with all the staff that is in French, but my boss was able to translate to tell me that actually none of the staff, not even the ones in Switzerland, were getting paid at that time. This, by the way, was the first all-hands meeting that we had had in the 5 months that I worked for the company. I was 6 months into working for this company, and I posted on LinkedIn. I posted, does anybody need any consulting help? Or are there any side gigs that I could possibly get involved with? And oh, that caused a stir in Switzerland, apparently, because the CEO contacted my boss, who contacted me, very concerned about what that looked like. On the one hand, I can see their point, and on the other hand, I wasn't getting paid. 9 months into working for the company, my boss admits that he's starting to look for something else. I'm really thinking that maybe I should start to look for something else, but we're both thinking that maybe we should, just wait it out and be patient and keep our foot in the door. And I actually was not feeling very good about this company. I canceled a talk because I could not, in good conscience, talk about the plans for this company's vision as if it was going to be reality, because at this point it was fiction. And despite all these financial troubles, we actually participated in a meeting in Washington, D.C. at the Swiss Embassy saying Swiss Space Systems is going to fly to space, and we met with a Swiss astronaut. We were at a party, and it was just really interesting to have, on the one hand, these discussions that we were actually going to do these things, and on the other hand, I was scrambling for money and wondering if I should actually start to apply for other jobs for real. And I don't know if you can tell in this picture, but I am pregnant. And then, I cannot believe this happened. I still cannot believe it. I was almost stranded in Washington, D.C. because the travel agency that booked our flights canceled our flights back. And I didn't find this out until I was at the kiosk checking in, and the kiosk computer would not let me check in. And I am frantic. I'm like, what do I do? My flight's gonna leave soon. I need to check in. And the lady tells me that my flight has been canceled. And I'm over here like, I don't have the savings to buy my own flight back. How am I gonna get home? So the lady at the front desk, she was able to reinstate my tickets so that I could fly back home. And what I think happened was that the company owed the travel agency so much money because the company was just racking up debts left and right. I'm pretty sure that travel agency just got mad and decided to just cancel everything, and not even caring that they were screwing over innocent employees who were already being screwed over by not having income. If my story is resonating with you right now, if you are just outraged on my behalf and you want to support me, this was a while ago. But what's free for you and would really mean a lot to me is to hit that subscribe button. My goal is to try to get 1,000 subscribers this year, so it would really mean a lot to me. Thank you so much. Come October, 11 months with the company, and there's an announcement. There's a new investor, a new investment group. We're gonna get money. They actually put out a press release saying so. You all, this was a lie. Or it was wishful thinking, I don't know which, but there was no new investor. There was no money coming in. And that became super clear to me when the next month, about a year into working for this company, my health insurance gets cut off. And I don't know if you've ever given birth in the United States, but the way it works is that healthcare for all of the birthing activities and all of the prenatal visits going up to the birth are all wrapped into one. As soon as you give birth, it is charged to health insurance. It's not charged beforehand. So here I was, a month to give birth, and health insurance gets cut off by the parent company. They decide not to pay for it. My boss pays for it out of his own pocket so that I'm not worried about having health insurance as I give birth to my first child. He's a hero. Literally a couple of weeks before I give birth to my first baby, I actually write the last quarterly report for the local grant that we had been getting. And I am embarrassed. I am so afraid to talk to these people. I'm so afraid to show my face. Even though none of this was my fault at all, I still felt so embarrassed that I was asking for money, saying that we are going to be doing this partnership with this Israeli company, and it was never going to happen. And at this point, the granting agency knew that it was never going to happen. They had their suspicions, right? And so what they did was they actually only gave us half of that last grant, that last quarterly payment. We needed that money. My boss and I, we needed that money because we were trying to pay our bills. It was just such a mess. And even though I had nothing to do with the failure of the company, I just felt incredible shame and embarrassment. And if any of you have ever been part of a failing company, maybe you have felt the same way. I don't know what it is, just a guilt upon association. 1 year and 26 days working for this company, and I am clearing out the office at Kennedy Space Center, this building that we've been working in at Exploration Park. I am about to give birth to my child. I'm very, very pregnant, and all of the posters that we had set up, the office printer, and anything else that we had installed earlier in the year that I truly thought I was going to bring in employees and we were going to be working together, all of that just cleared out. Most of it went into the trash. I gave the printer to my parents. I kept the little cheap laptop, and that was it. That was the end of S3 USA in Florida. The end of that year, the company puts out an announcement saying that everything is indefinitely delayed. I officially resigned at the end of that year. I think December 31st is what I put. It was completely arbitrary since I wasn't getting paid anyway. Here's the juicy stuff. Here's the stuff that has not been widely reported in the United States because it mostly took place in Switzerland, where these articles were not written in English. And so myself, I've had to use Google Translate, so it might not be perfect translations, but here's the gist of it. August 2016, there is a news announcement that just shocked me. I just was in disbelief. The CEO, he was lit on fire. He blamed it on the mafia or other space companies, saying that there was just a lot of people who did not want S3 to succeed. And that statement didn't make sense, but I was just in shock. Like, what? The CEO was lit on fire? Like, I've met this guy once or twice before. Like, I just could not believe it. The end of that year, a year after I resigned, the company went bankrupt. So it did take a full year for that company to go bankrupt. Meanwhile, I had actually filed a lawsuit against the subsidiary in the US, S3 USA. I won my judgment for all the back wages that were owed to me, but I would never get that money because there was no money to get, unfortunately. January 2017. It turns out that the police didn't really believe that CEO's story either, because there was an investigation as to what actually happened with this fire. And according to authorities, what actually probably happened was that he tried to set his car on fire, but the fire blew back into his face and set him on fire as well. So the investigators are saying that he set himself and his car on fire and then blamed it on others to try to get sympathy for the failed company. Yikes. 6 months later, June 2017, the company in Switzerland is doing their office clear out just like I had done a year and a half prior in Florida. They are liquidating all of the office assets, trying to get some kind of money that they can pay their bills and creditors, but not me, because I was never actually paid what I was owed. And you might think that's the last of Swiss Space Systems, but no, because a little over a year later, in 2018, there's a series of odd tweets that the company Twitter account, there seems to be some accusations that the CEO's email was hacked, and also some justifications for some odd financial transactions. You can see why the company was going on defense, because a few months later, it was revealed that the company actually made up a fake bank in order to get others to give them money. They created a fake bank name and a fake loan so that they could try to encourage investment into the company. Wow. And if that wasn't enough, I happened to go to my LinkedIn profile and click on the company's link on my LinkedIn profile, and I was very puzzled because the company had renamed itself to Company X, and it said that it was a financial services company in Geneva. So basically, the moral of the story is, don't just look at your immediate boss when accepting a job at a startup. look to see who is the leadership at this startup and the financial stability of this startup to see whether or not you want to associate yourself and your financial future with such a company.